The Bucks get ready for the playoffs and got the best news possible. The return of Damian Lillard is imminent. So what does it mean for the series? What are our predictions and what are some things to keep an eye on? Camille Davis and I let you know all of the above coming up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The playoff eve edition of Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia. You can hear me on the Bucks Radio Network. She's Camille Davis. You can find her everywhere in the podcast landscape. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day and for checking out the Locked On Bucks newsletter. Sign up for free at lockedondaily.com to get your day started with that free newsletter. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, Camille, let's not bury the lead here, as all Bucks fans are certainly aware of by now. The news that came yesterday, Damian Lillard has been cleared to resume basketball activities, full contact. He was at practice and participated in that. I think it was only 3-on-3 that they were doing yesterday. But nonetheless, I take that to mean he's off blood thinners and has been off for some days now, because it's 48 to 72 hours usually it takes to leave your system. But you're not going to have a non-contact walkthrough and scrimmage. So he's not going to play tomorrow. Let's get that out of the way. But the return is imminent. So we'll get to your reaction and what you thought when you first heard it. What game do you think he makes his debut in?
Feels like game 3 to me, like when they make that return back to Milwaukee, just to give him enough time to kind of get back into as best as you can to get into game shape. We know there's no way to get into game shape without actually playing the games, but with the injury that he had with the blood clot, he was unable to really participate in so many different activities. So just getting his lungs back together, getting his conditioning back up. So given that he was able to practice in full with the team yesterday, although it wasn't an intense practice yesterday, I think, and knowing that he's not playing game 1, it feels to me like waiting until game 3, that return back to Milwaukee, give him like a week or so to kind of get back into shape, feels like a good target in my theoretical world. I'm not saying that's the actual target, but if I had to guess when he came back, I would say game 3. What about you?
I'm going to say game 2, but game 2 is a minutes limit. Game 3 will be basically a week from that update, Friday night, and that's the benefit for the Bucks in this series is 2 days off between the first 3 games that you have. And then you have another one of those instances if this series extends from 5 to 6, I think it is, where you get 2 days off there as well. So I think we're going to see him Tuesday, and whether that means he starts or comes off the bench, or if it's like we're going to play him 20 minutes to just kind of get his feet under him, and then Friday and beyond is when you start to ramp that up. But I think we're going to see him on Tuesday in game 2 in this series. And now if you're the Indiana Pacers, we talked about this with Tony last year, and that I think he said this too, but we were always of the assumption Giannis was not going to play in that series last year. And as more came out after the season ended, you learned, oh yeah, there was no chance he was playing in this series, and probably not in the next if you won. So the Pacers were of that assumption as well, I think, I don't think he's going to play, but we do have to kind of prepare for this. Now, if you're Indiana, that ambiguity is gone, but okay, Damian Lillard is going to play. So we're going to have to contend with both of these guys. And that was the big question that I think all of us had, was if you don't have Dame, one thing to keep an eye on is what can you ask of Giannis on both ends of the floor. As he himself said, I got to dial it back a little bit defensively because of the load I'm carrying offensively. That's going to be gone at some point this series. So I still think, and I would assume you do as well, the best path for the Bucks is Giannis dominance, because as we'll get to, I don't know what the options are for Indiana to slow him down, but it does also, some of those matchups where if Giannis is on Pascal Siakam, once especially Dame is fully up to speed, that means, okay, he can give a little more defensively now.
That's exactly where I landed too, especially hearing Giannis talk about that in the locker room recently of like, you look at all the top 10 scorers, like I'm like one of the best two-way players in the league when you look at I'm one of the top scorers and I also what I do defensively. And to the point that you mentioned of what he was saying of it takes a lot out of you to be giving that much effort on both sides of the ball consistently. And without Dame, it was going to be a lot on Giannis's shoulders. Now, I didn't have any qualms about that because I believe Giannis can carry that load at least for a series by himself before Dame comes back. But knowing that, we're most likely getting Dame back at some point during this Pacers series, I think it just opens up the possibilities of what you can do. And it takes some of that offensive load off of Giannis's shoulders so that he really can lock in defensively if he needs to, or just get a break, get a rest, because the minute increase is going to go up for him, playing more minutes in the playoffs. So just being able to find time to save him a little bit of energy throughout the game with Dame being back on the court is going to be big. And also just thinking about this is the team that Dame's going to come back to, or to play against after being gone for so long. And it's a Pacers team that likes to pressure. They like to get up in you. So it's one of those series too, where like, it's going to be physical for Dame coming back. And we had the conversation about like, hey, when if teams are pressing Dame full court, what is the other outlet for that? And I wondered that same question when Dame wasn't, we didn't know he was going to be playing in the series of like, how do the Pacers execute that full court pressure? Is it pressuring Giannis? Is it Kevin Porter Jr.? But having another ball handler like Dame back out there on the court is going to open up so many different options for the Bucks. And I was already excited for this series, and knowing that Dame's returning at some point in it makes me even more excited because we've had some bad injury luck for the Bucks over the last few years.
Oh, you don't say.
I mean, one thing we've said and we've heard Kane say when he was locked on Bucks with Frank and Eric, you need a little luck to win a championship. And we haven't had the injury luck on our side. So getting the news about Dame coming back and from something that I did not think that he'd be able to come back for him, at least not this soon, like seems like luck's on the Bucks side a little bit, and you need a little bit of that to try to make a run.
I was a little worried there when you said we've heard Frank say it too. Like, oh no, are we getting negative here and not trusting the Bucks?
No,
I'm with you. I did not expect him to play in this series. I think I was pretty vocal about that. And the more that I heard, I kind of softened my stance, but I still felt like, guys, this is crazy. This is a blood clot. Like I get your optimism, but this isn't a walk it off and pain tolerance thing. This is a fatality thing. But I will say this without giving away anything I can. I mean, from day one, every single person in the medical staff and in the organization, the message they put out, that wasn't false bravado. Like they truly believed we caught this early because, I mean, that's the $1 million question. I would love to see the piece put together on the timeline of this. And was it, guys like Victor Wembanyama being diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis that had that top of mind for you? But the way the Bucks medical staff caught this and recognized this isn't calf soreness that you're dealing with, this is something else, and immediately moved in to treat it. That's why that was the message of optimistic, and we're hopeful to have him back. And it wasn't, gamesmanship like we saw last year with Giannis. So that's the important part here. And that's why all of us that doubted it were wrong. And that's a million pieces of credit to the Bucks medical staff for the work that they put in here to not only get Damian Lillard ready for the playoffs, but to potentially save Damian Lillard's life as well. When you think about it under that context, and you talked about the bad luck the Bucks have had, getting that news that he's at least going to play in this series. We're still waiting to see when. It took me back. Are you an Office fan, Camille?
Absolutely.
So it took me back to the episode where when they had the construction going on and they had to park blocks away and walk, and Kevin Malone had the line at the end of just feels good to win one after a couple of years of watching guys go down and not be available for the playoffs. Hey, it feels good to basically be full strength.
It really does, because like we said, you need a little luck, and the Bucks have just had terrible injury luck. Being able to get there healthy, that was the goal of the season. Get to the playoffs healthy. We don't care about the seeding. We believe in what we have as long as we can be healthy. And for a bit there, it seemed like we're going to have another year where we're without one of our superstars. And with the way this team is constructed post-trade deadline, with getting Chris Middleton out of Milwaukee, bringing in Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., Jericho Sims, it's a team really built to be constructed around Giannis and Dame. So when you take one of those out, it just messes with the full dynamic and the ceiling of this team. So being able to know Dame's on his way back, not for game one, but at some point in the series, it feels like his return is coming. Man, put a battery in my back. Let me tell you that, because I was already feeling good about this series when it was just Giannis there. So knowing Dame's on his way at some point, yeah, I cannot wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, we were both very optimistic. Talked a little bit about that with some high-level predictions with Tony East of Locked On Pacers a couple of days ago. We're going to dig more into what went into those predictions and have they changed at all with this news a little bit later in the show. But we mentioned Giannis and what he's, once Dame is back at least, probably able to give and turn up defensively in this series. So what are the most important matchups or players to keep an eye on in this first round series between the Bucks and the Indiana Pacers? Camille and I will dig into that coming up next on Locked On Bucks. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Helps you find the right talent. If you need that help with a marketing campaign, they can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. They make hiring fast and easy. You post a job for free, and it's simple. And within a day, you get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, Camille, we thank everybody again for checking out the Locked On Bucks newsletter, and start your day every morning with the latest on this team, which you can do for free, signing up at LockedOnDaily.com. We're going to do a post-game show after every game in the playoffs too, so keep your eyes on that. And not to take away from our audience, but I'll also just put this out there. The radio post-game shows we do as well. It's a perfect companion into the night where it's Camille and Frank, that you can get the live interaction on the radio show and then get Camille and Frank's takes on it, and sometimes me and Frank, and sometimes the three of us as well. But you can stream those on WTMJ's YouTube page or on 620 WTMJ on the radio dial as well. And those start as soon as the network post-game ends. So the matchups. We kind of shared some with Tony the other day, but does this news of Damian Lillard change anything for you in terms of who are the most key players or most important players or biggest matchups in this series?
Not necessarily. Getting Dame back just makes me have a little bit more questions around like the rotation, like who loses those minutes with Dame coming back. And I'm assuming here with Dame coming back, he's not going to jump back into some crazy minute load immediately. Like it feels like he kind of has to get ramped up a little bit, which is kind of weird to do during a playoff series, because playoff series is generally when guys are like, hey, the minutes are up. Giannis, Dame, 40 plus minutes. Like that's what we're expecting from you. I'm expecting to have at least one of you on the court at all times. But I'm assuming that Dame's going to have somewhat of a minutes restriction at the beginning, so kind of easing him back in there. So with that, I do still think that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be important. Ryan Rollins and the minutes that he gets. Now, I think the minutes probably come from Ryan Rollins, or if there's maybe a grouping of like maybe Kuz doesn't get as many and it's cumulative in that way. But overall, I think the guys who we've highlighted as being important for this series remain important, especially as Dame continues to get his legs underneath him.
Yeah, I mean, nothing changes for me in the sense that Giannis is still the most important player in this series, and Giannis is the guy that I still just, for as many questions as we had a year ago about how do the Bucks slow down Tyrese Haliburton. Um, I mean, you have tenfold questions about how do the Pacers slow down Giannis. The Bucks, as we've said all along this route to the playoffs, they're in a much better spot this year. I'm not saying Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. are Tyrese Haliburton stoppers,
Right.
but I feel much better about having those two guys in addition to everybody else on the roster now than a year ago when it was, okay, our options are Dame, Pat Beverly, Pat Connaughton, Malik Beasley. That's who we're throwing out there in the backcourt.
Yeah, a bit different now, especially because you can also do like a jumbo look and you can throw Kuz on him for spells of time as well and just put that length on him. So it'll be interesting to see the ways that the Bucks attack him. We haven't even mentioned Andre Jackson Jr., who last year in the playoffs was really tasked for doing that. He's someone who's fallen out of the rotation, but someone who I could see being dusted off if needed to come out there. But the Bucks have a lot more options, and that's what we've been saying throughout the year, a bit more versatile, and that's going to be a positive for this team going forward. And as we record this, we are live on YouTube. I see a comment came in from Team Landcraft just asking how do we feel about Kuzma on Spicy P, because that could leave Rollins on Haliburton. And I think it's going to be throughout the series a different diet of different guys throughout the same game. So like I could see Kuz having to defend Spicy P, defending Siakam, and then having to defend Haliburton as well, just kind of continuing to kind of switch up those matchups so that guys don't continuously get used to the same looks. And then also just kind of throwing different looks out to figure out what works best for the Bucks and what they have going forward. So I could see Kuz having a big defensive role in this series, which he's probably going to need, because I could see Kuz being that guy who the Pacers are like, let him shoot. Let's see what he can do. Let him shoot. So he's going to have to find a way to make an impact throughout the series in various ways.
Yeah, I brought that one up too when we were talking about, what realistically can you ask of Giannis on the defensive end if you don't have Dame, and mentioned, well, maybe you put Kuz on Pascal Siakam to start things off. And I know it drew to a raised eyebrow from Tony, but that's, look, I don't think any of us would say, hey, I'm a Kyle Kuzma stan. I'm trying to really put the message out there that Kyle Kuzma is one of the best players in the league. But what I will say is when you hear the discourse around Kyle Kuzma, and I get it, the playoffs are a different story. Mm-hmm. Defensively, I think a lot of people that are talking loudest about Kyle Kuzma have only looked at the box score and seen some of the shooting splits, which is fair. But when you watch, Kyle Kuzma has been an incredibly impactful defender for the Bucks since his arrival.
Impactful is a perfect word choice to use to describe what Kyle Kuzma has been to this team defensively. Because again, the Bucks like to play big. So they like those lineups with Brook, with Giannis, with Kuz, and even Taurean Prince. And then you're looking at, 4 guys who are 6'7" and up in your lineup. And it makes me think a bit of the Lakers situation as well, where they don't have a rim protector or any big that can, compete with what Giannis can give you, or even Brook Lopez at this point. But they have a lot of size on the court. They play the gaps well, and they try to use that size to their advantage. And that's something I can see the Bucks leaning into as well, playing gaps, just trying to bother the Pacers with what they have. And we know the Bucks love to go into those zone looks as well. And when you can go into zone looks with a lot of length and guys who can move, they just can throw so many different options, I think, at the Pacers. It's just going to be on the Bucks to execute throughout the games, and on defense, if they get broken down, if a guy does touch paint, which they should try not to allow as much as possible, but if a guy does touch paint and they get into scramble situations, being able to play on the string, understanding where the help comes from. So if the Bucks can execute properly with the guys that they have, I feel really confident about the different defensive strategies that they can execute throughout this series against the Pacers.
Yeah, just a lot of options that they have, and especially since, by the way, Jericho Sims is cleared to return and is available for game 1. So, Camille, for the first time in since they were technically fully healthy in 2022, but they're going into the playoffs basically completely healthy once you get through game 1 of this series against the Indiana Pacers, which is just what we've all been asking for years. It's been number 1 on our Christmas list. and we've just left disappointed each and every year. Maybe next year's the year. This year is the year that this team is now healthy going into the playoffs. And again, a very motivated Giannis, which I think is going to be a big, big story in this series. So we'll get into that and what to expect from Giannis, and also dig more into the predictions that we have for this series. Camille and I both said we think the Bucks are going to win this series, and we both feel pretty strongly about it. Does the news of Damian Lillard's return change how quickly we think the Bucks will win this series? We'll get into that conversation coming up next. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Maybe it's dining out, online shopping, entertainment, you name it. It's easy to lose track of all those finances. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You'll find surprising insights once you start using Monarch and realize just how much you're spending on things like a food delivery, and it helps you budget even smarter and save even more time. Get the convenience of an all-in-one app. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. And it makes things easy to collaborate with partners. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA to get half off your first year. So a reminder again to get the latest on the Bucks, to sign up for the Locked On Daily newsletter, Locked On Podcast newsletter, lockedondaily.com. You can sign up for free. And as we mentioned before, we're going to do post-game shows after each and every game in the playoffs. And if you need the immediate fix, you can stream the post-game radio show on YouTube as well at WTMJ's YouTube page. But Camille, we both picked the Bucks to win this series. We both, I know I do. I think when we were talking before, you felt the same. We both feel very strongly about that too. I'm not going to name him. I've talked to one other media member who's aligned and said, yeah, I think strongly that this team is going to win. Everybody else, one by one. We've seen a couple that have picked the Bucks in this series. I think Jason Timpt picked them. Nate Duncan picked the Bucks in this series as well. But for the most part, it's been the Indiana Pacers are going to win. The Bucks are old. Doc Rivers, yada, 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 and more of the forced Giannis discourse here. You picked them in 6. I went with 7 in our discussion with Tony, mostly just not to have two people saying Bucks in 6, but and to be clear, the Pacers are a very good team.
Yes.
But
yes.
Does Dame's return change things for you? It's still, I felt strongly before, feel strongly now. I still think they'll win in 6.
Yeah, pretty much. That sums it up for me, Justin. For me, this was a series where I was thinking, like, if you don't have Dame, of all the teams you could possibly play, like the Pacers is a matchup where I'm like, okay, like I feel like Giannis alone with everyone around him can pull this off, in large part because of what I believe Giannis is going to do in this playoff run. And knowing that Dame is coming back, I was tempted to go, Bucks in 5. Like let's take a game off of this, but I'm just saying Bucks in 6 still, because like I mentioned, there is going to be some conditioning for Dame to kind of get himself back into game shape. So I'm not sure what rotations might look like or exactly when he returns in this playoff series, but I'm very confident in the Bucks winning against the Pacers. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup from the rivalry standpoint that's brewing between these two teams. I saw Tyrese Haliburton mention, we don't like each other. Like our two teams, we don't like each other too much. And I love that. So with the ramp up for Dame, I think it's going to be Bucks in 6. And again, the Pacers are a good team, and the things that they do well can be pressure points for what the Bucks don't do well or what they can't tend to handle. So it's a little bit of a litmus test throughout the series. So I'm still feeling Bucks in 6 for this one. But again, I think Dame's return in this series is so much more important if the Bucks get out of the first round and what that means after that. So yeah, I'm Bucks in 6 still.
So I picked Bucks in 7, and that was more, let's play it safe here, and let's not just regurgitate what Camille said, because I agree with basically everything you said. I'll bump it up to 6. Having said I don't want to copy you, I'm going to do it anyway. I'll bump it up to 6, but I just, this is an incredibly motivated team, and this is a team that has the best player in the conference, and the way that he played the final month of the season, very arguably the best player in the league on your side. As we've seen, it doesn't always make the difference, but more often than not, the team that has the best player is the team that wins that series. So I think knowing that, and I think knowing especially that, is, we talked about during the NBA Cup games, and Frank mentioned it too, of man, how it's really fun to watch Giannis when there's stakes in these important games. And we've been robbed of that for basically 2 years. It wasn't full strength Giannis in that series against the Miami Heat. I do think we're going to be seeing that type of performance from Giannis. And that was basically the thumbnail we put up for the show the other day, where we just took Giannis's face and put him on Denzel Washington and Man on Fire. I mean, that's what I am kind of expecting here, that this is a motivated, driven Giannis, in the line in that movie too, if he's painting his masterpiece. Like that's what I'm expecting to see here, because of all the chatter that he's heard, the frustration of not being a part of the postseason last year, being injured the year prior to that. That to me is the biggest reason to inspire this confidence, because again, let's not lose sight that the Pacers are a very good team. As we've dug into the numbers since the start of the new year, the Pacers have been one of the best teams in the league. So it's not going to be easy. And I know there's going to be a tendency for a lot of Bucks fans to say, well, Dame's back, I think they're going to win in 4. I think they're going to win in 5. It is not going to be that easy, but you have Giannis on your side. You've played extremely well down the stretch. As we mentioned, the motivation that's there for Giannis too, that I just feel like, wow, can't believe we're finally getting here. But for the first time in years, things are starting to line up for the Bucks.
They are. And it's coming off of a year for Giannis where he had another dominant regular season. Second year in a row with him averaging over 30 points per game while shooting at least 60% from the field. No other player has done this even once in NBA history. Giannis just did it for the second time in a row. 3 seasons, averaging 30, 10, and 5. Like, that's the most in the NBA. Like, Giannis has been playing such good basketball. And the fact that there were conversations throughout the year with the Bucks struggling at points of, is Giannis washed and Giannis is done? And seeing what he's been doing day in and day out, I cannot wait for the playoffs to start, for the national spotlight to be on the Milwaukee Bucks, so Giannis can come back out and remind everybody who just so happened to forget that he is that guy. And that is why when we did the crossover with Tony, I did see some Pacers fans on the Locked On Pacers, YouTube saying like, man, those Locked On Bucks hosts, they just talked about Giannis for like 20 minutes. And it's like, when you have a Giannis, yeah, you're going to talk about him a lot, because he is a key point of why I feel so confident about what this Bucks team can do. He's extremely motivated. And we even got a little glimpse of that, I felt like, during the NBA Cup game, or NBA Cup finals, where it was like the lights were bright. They were playing for something. They had stakes there. And the show that he put on in real time, watching that game, I said, man, I have missed watching Giannis when the lights get bright. And we're back at that stage where he's here, he's healthy, he's ready to go. He knows that Dame is on the horizon coming back as well. It just feels like the energy around this team is really good. The guys seem motivated outside of Giannis as well to play their part, to star in their roles. And I'm just ready for this series to get kicked off.
We're already seeing it, Camille, as we said. Let's be careful here. We're seeing a lot of 4s and 5s for the Bucks. But yeah, I mean, and a few people have pointed out too, Damian Lillard was huge in that game 1 last year to open up the series. Not just 35 in the game, he had 35 in the first half. So that was also this is a reminder of, this is why you went out and got Dame. The motivation for Damian Lillard too. And that's the other thing to also point out that let's keep an eye on this. Doc talked about with Bobby Portis's return. Honestly, it might have been, if we look for silver linings, the good thing for Bobby, we kept him connected to the team, and obviously the rules of when he had to leave, being around the team, 2 hours prior to the game, but they allowed him to travel as much as he could. They were doing things like scrimmages with the Wisconsin Herd and just keeping him engaged. But also it was basically 2 months of not playing basketball and not getting that wear and tear that Doc said he's very fresh right now. For Damian Lillard, pretty close to the same thing when you talk about mid-March, that he's going through testing, he's still going through cardio, you still have to build up your game shape. But I think you have a strong chance to see a very, very fresh Damian Lillard for the playoffs as well, which that's kind of the under the radar thing about Dame's return here is he's back. And once he gets his feet under him, he's probably incredibly fresh.
Yeah, it's just that conditioning part just to get him back in there. But man, I mean, again, I'm still shocked and just kind of in this dream state of like, man, Dame's really going to come back at some point during this series. But I do think he's going to have fresh legs underneath him, which after the grind of an 82 game, season, most guys are going to the playoffs a little nicked up, which is why having this little week off, if you're a top 6 team, is important, because you get a chance not only to continue to plan for who's coming up next, but get your body right as you get ready to head into the playoffs. So this is going to be one of those series here where I'm really excited. I've seen some people mention Gary Trent Jr. and AJ about to go off, getting ready to watch Derrick Bird in this series. And to the point of why Giannis have so much faith in Giannis and what Dame can do, we also have like one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league. And with the way that Giannis can create havoc by touching paint, spraying out to shooters, as long as those guys are continuing to hit at a rate that we've seen throughout the season and what we know they can do, it's going to be really hard to stop this Bucks team. And my biggest concern for the Bucks is just themselves. Like, can you have that execution? Can you be dialed in for a full 48? Because we've seen throughout the season, I said the most consistent thing about the Bucks in the 2024-25 season has been inconsistency. But I'm thinking come playoff time, knowing you're playing the same opponent, game planning, being locked in, being dialed in is going to be a benefit for them. So I have a lot of faith in them, and I'm excited for it.
Not to stray too far and get into a religious conversation. We're not trying to do that here. But Camille, if he would have been cleared to play in game 1, I don't know if I would have been able to hold off changing the thumbnail to this to "He is risen" and just a picture of Damian Lillard. But yeah, the vibes are great going into the playoffs. It is a night and day difference from where it was a season ago. You've got health now. You've got Damian Lillard back at some point in this series. And we should point out a basketball thing here, other than just the positive, hopeful episode here. It's going to be very important for the Bucks, and that's where guys like getting Jericho Sims back and Bobby Portis being fresh are going to be big potentially. It's going to be very important for the Bucks to win the defensive rebounding battle, to limit the Pacers' second chance opportunities. Neither of these two teams are good offensive rebounding teams. I think they're 30th and 29th. So especially cannot give the Pacers those opportunities. You got to get back in transition D. But I will say, the way the Bucks were shooting the ball down the stretch, if you continue to do that, and that's one of the things we touched on with Tony, like the numbers that they were posting routinely in their effective field goal and field goal percentage, that's one way to stop pushing the pace, because teams will run on you after makes, but when it's make after make after make after make, that starts to get demoralizing, a little bit tougher to run on. So the Bucks offense is going to be very big in this series. And the last thing I'll point out before give you any thoughts on that or any keys you have is turnovers.
Yep.
It's been something we've talked about, frankly, too much at times this season. I think the surprising thing is, by the numbers, the Bucks are not a bad team in turnovers. Their turnover rate, I believe, is in the top 10 or close to
that. It has
that.
been for most of the year, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like, hey, the Bucks are in the lower portion of the league. It's just when it's bad, it's been really bad. And the reason why it's important is because of the math battle in limiting the opponent getting many more field goal attempts than you will. The Pacers, specifically Tyrese Haliburton, do not turn the ball over. So if you're going to have a high turnover game, chances are Indiana's not matching it. So they're going to be getting a lot more shots than you.
Yeah, I mean, to wrap up, like when we did the playoff preview on Technical Foul this week, I said my keys to the game, like what to watch, is it for the Bucks, it's the 2 T's. It's turnovers and it's transition. Like that's for the Bucks. You take care of those 2 things, you don't turn the ball over, and you're able to get back in transition. And even after a make, knowing the Pacers will try to push it after makes, just make sure you're getting back. It's the same principles. Like it doesn't count as transition points when they score fast after a make, but same principles, just get back, understand that. And the other thing that I'll add, since you already kind of broke those 2 parts down, is just temperament. I'll throw in a third T, temperament. Just understanding it's the playoffs. We know the Bucks have some guys that can be a little hot-headed at times. So just understanding, come playoff time, remain in the game. I've talked about it before too, with the team likes to push the pace. If you're not getting calls, you can't afford to stay back complaining to the referee about a call you think you should have gotten. You need to get back on defense immediately. Like it's just keeping your temperament about yourself, especially when other teams know that you have some hot heads. They're going to try to test you a little bit. So keep your head in the game, stay in it. Don't get out of yourself. Don't get no text. Don't get thrown out the game. Don't throw balls at fans. Just stay in the game. Stay focused. Limit turnovers. Get back in transition. Keep your temperament, and you should be in good shape.
I assume you're talking about AJ Green and Ryan Rollins there.
Who else are you talking about?
They have guys that play with an edge, and it's a very fine line, but it's frankly something that they've missed the last couple of years. So
Agreed.
That's the interesting part about Kevin Porter Jr. specifically. We'll single guys out here. We saw Bobby in game 4 last year lose that edge. KPJ straddles that line, and that's an interesting thing to watch, but it has given the Bucks a little bit of an edge and a boost there. So it is a good point and an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But the playoffs are here now. Tomorrow morning, basically, our pregame network coverage is going to start at 11:30. So we're less than 24 hours, roughly 24 hours away from the start of the playoffs here. And there's a Bucks team for the first time in years that is basically healthy going into the playoffs, which brings with it a lot of optimism. And I'll say this too, Camille, as many viewers and listeners are aware, and especially the viewers that see my usual headwear and anything else in the background, I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. I have tickets for the final night of their run at the Sphere this spring, May 17th. And there was a long time where it looked like, I'm probably going to be able to attend. It's up in the air now because the second round wouldn't start until I think May 6th. So as much as I love them, I hope I'm unable to attend that show and have to sell the tickets.
You know, you're hoping that, and I'm hoping that the Bucks are still playing basketball on my birthday, which is end of May. If we get there, May 23rd, if the Bucks are still playing basketball, that's the birthday gift I want this year, Justin. I want the Bucks to still be playing basketball come May 23rd.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So we will have a post-game show tomorrow and dig into game 1. Hopefully we're taking that number from 16 to 15 and keeping an eye on that tracker. And then we'll see when Damian Lillard's return is in this series. So tomorrow's game 1, Tuesday nights in Indiana game 2, and then the series shifts to Milwaukee Friday, and we get the Sunday night 8:30 tip too. Can't wait for that one. But those are the first 4 games of this series. Thanks to everybody for hanging out in the live stream this morning. Leave your series predictions on this one as well. I would assume it's going to be about 95, 98%. Actually, it's going to be 99 to 100%. Bucks are winning this series. I would imagine it's going to be about 90% of Bucks fans picking in 6. But let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. And we will be back to talk to you tomorrow to recap game 1 of this series. For Camille, I'm Justin. Thanks to everybody for tuning in once again on Locked On Bucks.